trespass against thee. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Let us remain standing and observe a minute's silence as a mark of tribute to the passing of our former Prime Minister, Wayne Seymour Arthur. You can now sit. This House is now in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 to be deferred.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, July 21st be deferred.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be deferred. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. The aforesaid minutes are deferred.
Announcements by your Honor this week. Messages from Her Excellency the Governor General, petitions, papers, government notices, private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first readings of bills, statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, and 44 be suspended for the remainder of today's sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended.
Government business, sir.
Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 14, sir. In the name of the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to approve the Public Service General Order 2020.
Honorable Member for St. Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, this matter is one which I don't believe should detain this chamber for overly long. And in fact, during the discussions with our parliamentary group on the matter at hand, it is, because we are amending schedules, it is actually quite technical. But before I do that, sir, there are in fact two resolutions. One in relation to the Public Service General Order 2020, and secondly, the Public Service Teachers Amendment Order of 2020. And sir, I believe that the subject matter of the two would be such that it would be prudent for this chamber to have a cognate debate in that regard. And therefore, I ask if, with the Chamber's leave, that we so agree.
Honorable member, this is 14 and 15.
14 and 15.
The question is that orders 14 and 15 be part of a cognate debate as they are inextricably linked. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
In the closing days of our last administration, Mr. Speaker, we sought to completely transform how the public service would function. We consulted extensively with the workers' representatives, put a lot of effort into it, and we enacted, I believe it was in December of 2007, a new public service bill. And for the most part, sir, I think that bill was well received by the public sector. They felt it was one that was long in coming, and I was pleased to have been the Attorney General who worked on getting that bill in a condition that it was ready for Parliament and ready for debate. The last administration made some amendments to the bill, but for the most part, the bill has remained unchanged. Events, sir, have recently caused the members of the last administration to wake up and to criticize this government indirectly in relation to how we dealt with the Public Service Act. And that relates, or related specifically, to criticisms of the validity of the appointment of a deputy commissioner. And let me say at the outset, sir, that difficulty is remedied in this order. But you would think, if the criticisms were accurate, that we would come to this chamber and just make an order in relation to the deputy commissioner's post. Not so, sir. As we investigated the history of dealings between 2008 and 2018 in relation to the public service, we discovered, in fact, that there were a large number of illegal, I'm using the term they used, a large number of illegal posts in the public service occupied by good and solid public servants who were going to work every single day and carrying out their duties. Now, I don't want to rake up this issue all over again, sir. But I do feel it is important to lay it to rest. I am simply making the point, Mr. Speaker, that in a situation where this administration is charged and vilified for doing all kinds of things in relation to a single post, the last administration, over a 10-year period, created improperly as much as 200 posts in the public service and placed public servants in them and did not rectify the defect. But, sir, it behooved them to call the kettle black and say that we were committing all ends of crimes and grievous wrongs and assaults on the sensibilities of right-thinking Barbadians, when in truth and in fact, sir, the records show, Mr. Speaker, that they created improperly a large number of posts, the vast majority of which continue today in contravention of the very act that they blame us for. Now, at the time when these things were being done or omitted from being done, the current leader of the Democratic Labour Party was a member of the Senate. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think she was a member of the Senate for both of their terms. Both of their terms, she was a member of the Senate. And at no time did she notice the beam in their eye, but she proverbially notices and prances up about the mote in ours. Now, sir, we are not people, sir, who will see something wrong and fail to correct it. So, in correcting our own error, we are here today to correct, and I'm trying to give you the exact number, but I think the exact number is 200 plus. So we are here to correct our one error and all 200 plus of theirs. And no fuss, sir, no fanfare. Nobody is pointing fingers at the public servants, because a public servant who is offered a job takes that job in good faith and for the most part will come to work and discharge those responsibilities with diligence and commitment. And that's an important place to start, because these posts are occupied not by machines, not by faceless beings, but they are occupied by Barbadians in every way like you and me. And you know, the trade unionists in the other place announced that the deputy commissioner should pay back every penny of the salary that he's drawn. Now, if that were to happen, then all of the public servants, some of whom may even be in his union, some of whom he would profess to care for, and to be their chief combatant, all of them would have to pay back every penny that they also earned between 2008 and the year of our Lord 2020. What a calamity that would be. Can you imagine that, sir? No, you know, there's one thing, it's been driven into our head, and you know, it is perhaps interesting that we do this debate today, coming mere just over 24 hours after the death of the former Prime Minister, because he was the person who championed and pushed the work on the Public Service Bill. The one thing I recollect, well, I recollect many things he said, though my name is not Busy Williams. I recollect many things he said, sir. But one of the things that should govern all the thinking of all parliamentarians is that you can always change policy, but you should never change a principle. Because a principle, sir, is at the foundation of whatever you do. Fundamental human rights are principles. All those, they're principles. We understand it clearly. You don't change a principle, but you can always change your policy. Because policy becomes like dogma. You can say, well, that factual matrix gone now, so let me try something else. You don't be dogmatic about those things. But a principle, sir, principle you keep. And so I wonder what the spokesman in the other place for the opposition party will say about these 200 public servants having to pay back, in some cases, 11 years of salary to the public service because there was an omission in relation to their appointment. I wait to hear. Sir, an administration that recognizes that there are omissions, especially when there is no animus or no malintent in relation to them, must, as a matter of principle, put those things right. And so, sir, we are here to put right 10 years of public service posts that were created administratively and that were only supposed to be in existence for 3 years, because the Act says it can be in place, you can have a temporary post for 3 years, but beyond that, you can extend it, but after that extension, you must either create the post or done with it. Plain and simple. You must either create the post or done with it, to use Bajan jargon. But these posts were created, but never extended. The last administration created posts. The Act said it can continue for 3 years, but you can extend it for a further 3 and thereafter sudden death. But they created these posts and they were not extended. Well, you don't hear us prancing up saying that the last administration was paying people illegally, or that the people who were paid should have to pay back every cent. We are not motivated, sir, by that kind of, trying to find a good word. We're not motivated by those kinds of sentiments, sir. Because we have, by malice, sir, we don't treat public servants in that way. Some of them may work in my ministry, some may work in the ministry for the member for St. Thomas. Some may work in this parliament, I don't know. So, the defect that we are here to correct then, sir, is a large number of posts. I'm trying to find the exact number. A large number of posts which were created as an administrative temporary post, which is a thing that I guess is of value to the public service, because there are times when you need a particular job done, a particular functionary established, but you don't anticipate that you will need it for overly long, and you create a temporary post and you fill it. I think from time immemorial we've been doing that. And that, no difficulty there, but they continued after the time had come for them to be at an end. So the lesson to be learned from this is, in case the last administration, don't call the kettle black unless you first check your own track record. Because you will find, sir, that when you take your fist and point it at somebody, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. And the current leader of the party was in the Senate, so she can't say, well, I was disconnected. She can't say that. That particular individual was a member, not just of the party, but she was a member of the Senate representing her administration. And therefore, she is as culpable as the others. So instead of being first critic, she should perhaps be first penitent. Sir, it is a thick document. And in fact, all of the changes are in the schedule. Perhaps there could be a more efficient way of doing this. This particular order has 14 schedules, and each schedule there are no names in this document, just offices, what pay scale they're in, and the number of offices that now obtain. And what are some of those offices, sir? I'm happy to share with the chamber. Some of those posts created: Foreign Service Officer, System Analyst and Programmer, Information Technology Officer, Community Mental Health Sister, Financial Controller. So all the posts were at the lower grade, sir. Financial Controller is a very senior post. Prison Officer and Network Administrator. These were some of the posts that were created. And my record says, sir, that between 2009 and May of 2018, some 328 posts were created by the last administration, all of which are yet to be established. 328, sir. By the last, between 2009 and May of 2018, 328 posts were created, all of which are yet to be established. And of those posts, 183, that's the right number, are over 6 years old and therefore are being occupied by individuals in breach of the statute. So we are here today, sir, to put wrong things right for those people. 183 individuals, sir, are sitting in posts today that have no standing in law to exist. And that is what we are fixing, to give those people an opportunity now to be appointed, because those posts are today being established. Now, sir, if there's one thing about how we have operated with the public service since we came to government, it hasn't been one of consultation only, sir. It has been one of empathy. I remember, sir, as we had to sit down and grapple with the fine details of the BERT program, it was obvious that we were going to have to make some changes in how the public service was structured. We were going to have to make changes in relation to the size of the public service. You know, one of those things that we did, we sat down with every department and we went through the exercise of looking at the various posts. We tried, where possible, to do last in, first out. We looked at what were the demands of the public sector at the time. We tried to get rid of all the anachronistic posts like clerk typists. All of these are things that we did. And we only permitted those individuals who the department said we can sacrifice these, not in the sense of, perhaps that's not the best word to use, but the departments were saying these are posts that we could perhaps do without. And when those people were sent home, we made sure that they were sent home with severance payments, something that the public service does not have. Because the public service does not admit of severance payments. But we made sure that we structured things so they can go home with money. We also made sure that wherever possible, if opportunities arose, that those people who were sent home will be the first to get brought back, sir. In my ministry, I am able to say firsthand that we required services of a number of people, and we went back for the people who were sent home and said, come back and perform these services on contract. We have a digitization program that is about to start. And every single member of cabinet is operating on the basis that those people who were sent home in the work program and who want to come back, that they represent the corpus of people from among whom the first choices will be made. Empathy, sir. We've trained them even after they've left the public service so that they can come back and fulfill those jobs. Empathy and commitment, sir. And that empathy and commitment extends, that attitude, that spirit of brotherliness and being responsible for the people around us. Instead of, man, he should be made to pay back every cent. We say, no, let us fix what was wrong because it is not his fault. That is empathy, sir. That is caring about your brother. And part of that exercise requires us today to deal with these 328 posts, and of that 328, the 183 were the individuals who, and I don't even think those people know, Mr. Speaker. If you pick up a phone and call any public servant and ask him what's the status of his post, he can't tell you because that's not his job. That's not his responsibility is to go work every day and do the best that he can do. That's what his job is, not to be peeping behind to see, is my post legal, is it illegal? Will somebody call and tell me I'm going to pay back every penny? Can you imagine the shock waves, sir, if we were to follow that attitude, the shock waves that was sent through the public service? 183 people, sir, will be sent into a total state of panic and mania, wondering what kind of mad people we are operating this country. So, Mr. Speaker, that is what we are here to deal with today. The exercise has been painstaking, but I thank the members of the Ministry of the Public Service for going through it, because the public service has a large number of employees. You have to go through a large number of posts. They have to go through 10 years of appointments to try to determine exactly who is and who is not. But sir, if we, and perhaps it isn't even worth mentioning, but there are some people who would find all kinds of mechanisms to get rid of people. This, if we were so minded, this might even be a good one. Post isn't legal, so go home. But that's not how this Barbados Labour Party administration operates, sir. That's not how we are. That is not who we are. That's not who we are. All of these people, by the end of this process in the Senate, will be waking up to a new day where they are in occupation of a post that is established, and because it is the right thing to do. In relation to the teachers, sir, the teachers' amendment is a very slight one, and we've just inserted clause 9, which deals essentially with appointments of individuals in the same way. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is not one that should engage the attention of the chamber overly long. I welcome the comments of members on it. It requires a debate in both this chamber and in the other place, and I commend it to both this chamber and to all of the members of the other place, because it is the decent thing to do. Somebody suggested to me that I should read off the name of every single public servant who would benefit, or every single public servant who, based on those calls, would be thrown out on the air. But that, we don't operate in that kind of invidious manner, sir. These are our brothers and our sisters. I don't know who they are, but I know that they go to work every day and they serve the people of this country to the best of their ability. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't believe I can add any more. If I keep talking, I will just end up repeating myself. It is something that this administration commits to dealing with promptly. We've not been in the business of creating posts, but I give this chamber the assurance that that we will not allow public servants to have to face this kind of scenario again. It is a dreadful thing, sir, when you now have to be dealing with people and posts for going back as far as 11 years. I mean, that is scandalous. What it means is that individuals who should have been mindful of what was being done simply did not pay attention, and that is not going to be the hallmark of this administration. We will be paying attention to the big things and also to the little things, and I therefore ask, sir, that these resolutions do now pass.
Beg to second that, sir.
One at a time, sir.
Beg to move, sir, that the Public Service General Laws of 2020 do now pass.
Beg to second that, sir.
The question is that the aforementioned resolution do not pass. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. You think the ayes have it?
Order number 15, sir. In, huh?
Yes.
Do you want to speak?
You didn't hear what I moved? Correct. Right. Mr. Speaker. You can be careful. Present your honor. Turn on the mic, honorable member, honorable leader opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and not to detain us overly long, but just to make a couple of comments. I think it is unfortunate that the honorable member, the Honorable Attorney General, should choose to root much of his submission in this familiar saying that the pot should not call the kettle black. I make reference to the fact that the former administration, not now represented in this parliament, would have been critical of the government for its missteps around the business of appointments, whereas in fact the record being put to us today suggests that the administration was guilty, the administration of that time was guilty of the same. My point is, this is more than a game of darts or war between administrations. We are talking about people's lives. And therefore, what I hear the honorable member for St. Joseph to say is, we may have messed about with the lives of some public servants, people's lives, but you can't criticize us because you did it too, and you did it in a worse way. That is my translation of what I heard. We continue as political administrations in Barbados, by our own admission, to play with people's lives, to play with people's futures. I heard with my own ears, and both of them are functioning quite well, the honorable member for St. Joseph, the Attorney General, the honorable member who last spoke, say that if you ask these people in question what is their status vis-a-vis employment in the public service, they don't know. They can't tell you. Mr. Speaker, that is very telling. It is an indictment. It is an indictment upon the institution of government, the process of governance in Barbados, that at this level, we can stand to admit that if you ask a large swath, a large number of public servants what their legal status is, they can't tell you. And we live in the day when there are the stipulations of the Employment Rights Bill. Employers are supposed to properly advise employees as to where they stand. Now, government, in my view, Mr. Speaker, ought to be the model employer and must set the standards. And there's so much wrong out there in the world of employer-employee relationships in the private sector world. There's so much that is wrong and that needs to be corrected. And we're working on some of them, and slowly, yes. But if government can't provide the model for standards and a properly functioning regulatory framework, then we're lost. And essentially, that is what I am hearing here today. You can come to correct this, and that must be done. But you can't glibly say, ask all of them, call them by name and ask them, and they cannot tell you. You can imagine that. You can imagine the government is admitting that if you ask these large numbers of public servants what their legal status is, they can't tell you. There's something wrong, fundamentally wrong about that. We can't come and say the pot shouldn't call the kettle black. It's not about the pot so much or the kettle. It is about the water in those instruments that is feeling the pressure, the heat, the people. We got to deal with that. Our member, James Central, knows what I'm talking about. Very, very well. And I don't want to be in any way controversial. I'm not even seeking to be scathing in my submission with reference to the current administration. I am saying that there are systemic failures, and part of the reason why these systemic failures persist over the years across administrations is because we lose sight of the people. The people in the mix. But there are people here with lives and with futures. And we've got to take that into consideration. We can't play with people's lives. We can't reduce this matter in the context of its persistence to being one about administrative considerations. We can't simply say that somebody, some technocrat in the public service, got it wrong, did not do what they were supposed to do, and there was an oversight. There's a minister of the civil service. There's a minister responsible for public service. There's a minister of labor. We can't just pass it off as an oversight or a deficiency in the efforts and the approaches of the public service machinery that's responsible for civil administration. No, we're talking about people. And I just want to register that because, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about people. They're people with careers that they want to see developed. And they need to know where they're going. They need to be in a position to make their plans. There are people with children for whom they want to plan and project as well. It's a serious matter. And we're here to correct perhaps a wrong. But in so doing, we can't glibly pass over it and make this a game between pots and kettles. Today is about people. In this context, we call them public servants. They provide a service to the public of Barbados without which this society, including this institution right here, of which we are a part, cannot properly function. And I say that strongly, not intending to be an attack on the administration today, but an attack upon a system that perpetuates this kind of deficiency and failure. Having said that, and perhaps I should have said this at the start and not at the finish, I want to add my voice in commendation and compliments, congratulations to my honorable friend from St. Michael West Central, who is now not in the seat, but who has been recently appointed to the Cabinet of Barbados, and I think deservingly so. And I would want to record my appreciation of him and the service that he's been rendering the country.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't intend to delay the chamber too much longer, but I do feel that I need to lend my voice to the introduction of these two orders presented by the member for St. Joseph. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, let me just say that as Minister of Education, representing a number of teachers and other professionals within the educational system, the matter before this chamber today, I know will bring some relief to several of our post holders in the system. While the Attorney General has alluded to the fact that people are, in some cases, and have been for some time, uncertain about their status, it is not said, I believe, with any delight. It is said as a matter of fact that some people oftentimes have been asking questions in various departments within their ministries about their status and whether the posts will be regularized at some point in time, and they have in some cases not gotten the answers that they have been requested. I think it is therefore fair to say that there are a lot of people who have been out there in limbo. As the Honorable Leader of the Opposition has stated, it doesn't make it right. Both administrations have presided over things that have not been right in the course of history. But what we are here to do today, through the Honorable Attorney General, is to correct things that have gone wrong. And I can certainly not remain silent. I have to support this measure because I do believe that it will give those persons across the professions and across the service a certain comfort coming out of the passage of these orders today, in knowing that they are no longer in limbo, in knowing that they have a certain level of job security and a certain level of comfort. I think, sir, we take these things often for granted, but I do know from my discourse with certainly the unions over the course of the last 2 years that these are burning issues for the union leaders. They are burning issues certainly for the post holders as well. And the reality is that sometimes when there is uncertainty, it also impacts the ability and the focus of people to do their jobs, sir. I think that this government recognizes that regardless of whose fault it has been that we have gotten to this point, that we have a responsibility to correct what has gone wrong. So the persons who will be impacted by these two orders this morning, sir, I think they will breathe a sigh of relief in the knowledge that this administration has not come to office and certainly just talked about it or tried not to correct the situation. But in truth and in fact, we have actually sought to bring some measure of relief to all of those individuals that have been affected over the course of the past few years. And sir, there are big jobs and there are small jobs that have been impacted. And I think that is very important because oftentimes you may think that it is a particular type of job that persons have not been paying attention to in terms of regularizing. But we have seen in the relation to this matter, sir, There were a number of posts that were created, such as foreign service officer, systems analysts, programmers, information technology officers, community health sisters, financial controllers, prison officers, network administrators, that were simply not properly regulated. And for many of those persons, obviously not having that security, as I said, has no doubt played on their mind, and I'm glad that we've been able to bring that type of relief, certainly, to those persons this morning. Sir, it also brings to mind the fact that you can't come to office and condone things that previous administrations have done badly. I say that, sir, because it is easy sometimes to come to office and certainly just let it be business as usual. There are lots of reforms that we have been trying to achieve over the course of the past few years, last 2 years, certainly in the last few months. Has it been an easy path to achieve all of the transformational things that we would like to do, sir? I would have to say it hasn't been easy. We are trying to change a culture. We are trying to change a society's way of doing things. We're trying to change the public service mindset. And we're trying to do all of that while trying to keep this country afloat, while trying to transform an economy as well, sir. And therefore, I put that in a context because this cannot be seen as any trivial matter this morning, because we are, again, trying to correct things that have been left lying for several years, which have impacted on the livelihood of several persons. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we make wrong things right, sir. I don't think the Attorney General, as alluded to by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, in any way sought to indicate that you can't criticize this administration because the other side did it, but they did it in a worse way. I believe, as I'm sure the honourable member knows, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But I think he has to be fair. I think somewhere in his presentation, I do believe that he supports the measure, while perhaps not openly stating so, and perhaps trying to be more critical than anything. But I do think that deep in his bosom, he too, having been a member of government, understands that even sometimes with the best intention and the best will, it is not always easy to come to office and accomplish all of the things that you want to do within a short time frame. And I think, yes, I'm hearing him say, sir, on the sidelines that it is true. And I expect him to be honest, even if it is only in relation to that matter, because he has certainly served this country in government. He has held portfolios. He knows what it is to change a culture. He knows what it is to correct the wrong things that have been done by previous administrations. And so I know that quietly he does support this and he does support what we are doing. Maybe he may feel that we didn't do it fast enough. But I know he, in his heart of hearts, I honestly believe that he is supportive of the measures. He is right that there have been systemic failures over the years in relation to how we have dealt with staffing issues, and those are things that have to be corrected. I, for one, believe that in terms of industrial relations, we have to obviously improve the relationship with our staff. And whether that is from within my own ministry in relation to how we interface with unions, how we interface with our members. Sir, there's a lot of baggage that people have been carrying over the years as it relates to dealing with industrial relations. And I think at the crux of it, we have to be in a position within each of the ministries to be able to find a way to ensure that we deal with matters head on, that our HR departments are properly strengthened, that our personnel departments are also strengthened, that certainly the Ministry of the Civil Service is also strengthened. I mean, to say that there's a Minister of the Civil Service is also, in the other breath, also to say that there are so many other things that the person who is responsible for government, for the ministry and all the other ministries has to do as well. And therefore, you have to make sure that you have competent persons working within your departments, but also working across ministries to ensure that issues are nipped in the bud early, there is nothing worse than not being able to have intervention from an early stage when people are asking questions about their own job security or whether there are HR matters that are coming to the fore. And therefore, I think the lesson for all of us in this is really, while we may be in a rush sometimes to create positions because we recognize that there are things that need to be solved quickly, in the same token, we have to have the same urgency applied to ensuring that procedures are properly followed and that we equip our staff across government departments with the requisite skills to be able to, as quickly as we create a position, to be able to put whatever is necessary to be put in place. So, sir, I again want to support these two orders, to echo on behalf, I think, of all of the persons within certainly the teaching profession that have been affected, and within the Ministry of Education that have been affected, certainly, sir, prior to today, to really say thank you to the AG and to the others for being able to not just see this as a debate that was raised by the leader of the Democratic Labour Party or others in the public domain, and but rather to see this as something that, while we are cleaning up one thing, that we are man enough and woman enough to be able to say equally that there are other things that need to be cleaned up as well. And therefore, this party stands proudly behind its record. It is not afraid to run from having made a mistake or in any way trying to correct what has been done before. And sir, I have seen, in the last couple years, certainly before coming to office, an administration not willing to admit where it was going wrong and not willing to correct the things that it needed to. And again, I hear the aside, sir, which I'm sure you heard, that the leader of the opposition is also agreeing with me that those words are quite true. Therefore, sir, as I said, I believe we are perhaps on the same page, even if he has said it differently. That the honourable member also will support these orders, and that we can start to bring to some clarity the lives of persons who have been affected by this. So I do support the orders, and I give my full support to the move.
Honourable Member for St. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I shall just make a brief intervention, sir, to indicate how happy I am that this resolution has been brought to this honorable chamber, especially at this time when so many thousands of people are meeting tremendous challenges and the element of fear has really taken over their lives. I want to indicate that I had that unfortunate experience for 11 years as well, from 1970 to 1981, with no appointment and just temporary ones, no permanent appointment, temporary ones, where you're not so sure if the next day you will be able to go to work, to be able to uplift yourself and your families. And therefore, I understand the hardship and the loss of wanting to have the courage to go to work, to be able to produce in a way that most workers are enthusiastic and we wish to. And therefore, it is a wonderful moment today. And I am proud to be a member of this distinguished Barbados Labour Party that is more than 80 years old, and for the contribution that it has made towards workers, starting from the time of our great, excellent Grantley Adams and coming to the fore, and consecutive Barbados Labour Party governments looking after the needs and the interests of people and helping to propel them to the level where they are comfortable, they're independent, and they develop that element of pride and satisfaction in offering service not only in the public sector, but indeed in the private sector as well. It is a terrible inconvenience. That element of fear, the anger, the whole notion of not being promoted because you're only temporary and that you could be sent home at a short period of notice. In the past administration, sir, between 1994 and 2007, I can speak boldly of lending my support to my astute leader, now deceased, who with his teams of members of cabinet and others were able to look towards extending that element of empathy, support, comfort, and hope to those persons who were working in the government sector for so many years without security of tenure. And therefore, that aspect of the legislation, sir, that was passed by the last Barbados Labour Party government up until 2007, ensured that between 1999 and 2007, we left in 2008, that maids or janitors, general workers, and other persons down the line, as well as those regular government workers, were able to have security of tenure. Indeed, sir, many of them were not able to go home with any money in their hands, called a gratuity. The Barbados Labour Party ensured that at that time, those persons be made permanent employees in NCC and Ministry of Public Works, and persons who would be considered to be general workers and nobody. They're the ones who keep our streets clean. They're the ones who make sure that our schools are well looked after. They're the ones who work across the length and breadth of government, and people consider it to be insignificant, but they're the ones who make sure that our health is kept in a condition that we can go and use the bathroom and not have to be worrying. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this is the right thing that this government has done. We know of the challenges that we inherited up until 2008 May, and we know of the BERT program and the engagement of the IMF that would have caused some discomfort among workers. But I am confident, sir, that going forward, once we get out of this pandemic era, that the people of Barbados will be able to see even more being done and other measures instituted that will ease the plight of our workers in this country. We believe in people empowerment, sir, and we will continue to work towards ensuring that persons get security of tenure as long as they fit the profile. And therefore it says, yes, we're going to continue to work with the unions and the other institutions, and C2SAB and the other institutions that constitute, to ensure that everybody in Barbados that is a government worker or a private sector worker receives the benefits that he or she should get. I also want, Mr. Speaker, to indicate that while we are doing this, it is incumbent upon government and the private institutions to ensure that workers are properly, that there is a proper appraisal system put in place to be able to measure the contribution of workers. So there must be training on a regular basis, because some people, because of illnesses, because of their own personal issues, sometimes it is a partner in the household, there's confrontation, there's illness of a child, or a mother who has Alzheimer's, or even a father, or somebody who is disabled and persons can't get to work on time. That element of empathy should still be there, but the communication from those who are in charge of those persons in the institutions should be coming through from their training to be able to listen and understand and give them a chance and give them an opportunity. You can't finish at 4:30 now because you were out for the 2 hours, but perhaps tomorrow morning we want to come in a little earlier.